Welcome to Archery Talk 101 podcast, your guide to better archery skills. We'll bring you the latest tips, tricks, and expert advice, but that's not all. We'll also have interviews with top archers and industry professionals and reviews of the latest gear and equipment and much more. Hey, we're going to find out what it's like to shoot some bow and arrows with one of our friends, Brian, here. Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be your host today on Archery Talk 101. And we have Brian on the line with us, and he's going to tell about all the exciting things he does with his bow. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thanks. Not so much sure I'm as exciting as some of your other guests, but I'll do my best.
Hey, they're all good. You know, we get to talk archery. Yeah, how can you go wrong with that?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, why don't you introduce yourself so our audience will know a little bit something about you?
I guess my name's Brian Cooper. I'm the owner, founder, janitor, and general only employee of Grey Wolf Manufacturing and Grey Wolf Archery. So I make at the moment I make stabilizers and stabilizer weights, and we're working on putting other things in our products. That's kind of the short and sweet of it.
Well, we have lots of questions about stabilizers.
I'll go right ahead and I'll do my best.
Well, start with if they wanted to get one of your products, how would they get a hold of you?
You can go either contact me directly through the company's Facebook page, or I do have a website, greywolfmanufacturing.ca. That's sort of the overarching company, and there'll be a tab there for Grey Wolf Archery specifically.
Okay.
Those are kind of the two easiest ways, and we're starting to try to expand our dealer retailer locations, but that's been slow. So.
Yeah. So what got you started in archery?
Was it back in 2000? Or I guess when I was 10 or 12, it'd be like 2006, 2005, somewhere in there. Long story short, just saw it on TV, told my mom, hey, I want to go try this. And then she said, oh, yeah, that's nice. That's nice. It was just like a kid wanting to do something random, right?
Yeah.
And then brought it up again one more time. And she's like, okay, let's go see what this is all about. So we went out to the local range at the time and picked up some recurve, shot them for a bit, and kind of went from there.
That was it, you know, you wanted to get started. I hear a lot of stories about archers that just wanted to get started and starting out with just making their own bow and getting a couple arrows and just flinging them and then progressing on to, you know, doing good things in archery and it's just a matter of, hey, something you want to do, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. It's fairly, as long as there's ranges around, it's a fairly easy sport to get into. It's not, there's a very low barrier of entry to it.
Right. And you don't have to spend a lot of money on a bow either. You can, as long as it fits you, it doesn't matter what you spend.
Yeah, like when I first started, it was just a generic takedown recurve. I think it was like $150 at the time, and half a dozen arrows, and that was it. So my mom I didn't buy it because I was a kid at the time, but my mom probably only put out maybe $200 or so to buy the bow and the arrows, and that was about it.
Yeah, I think my first one was a little bit cheaper than that, but that was in the 60s. So
yeah. Things have gotten a little bit more expensive since then.
yeah, quite a bit, especially the last few years. They've really jumped up. And you know, back when I had my store, oh geez, that was 20 years ago. It was, you know, the low end bow was running you about the $350 range to get set up for a bow.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what I sold the bows for, is right about that range. And that was back when PSC had the Nova bows. And those that remember, they come in 3 different draw lengths, like a 24, 27, and 29. And you had a couple inches difference between them. And you know, I would stock 2 in the right and 1 in the left of each of the sizes. And you know, because I stocked them, I sold 40% of my bows last year. I had my store was left-handed.
Yeah.
Because I stocked them.
Yeah. If you simply have the product someone's looking for, there's a good chance that they'll buy it from you instead of going online, right?
Yeah. And even, you know, online, you couldn't compete with what you got from me, because if you bought it online for cheaper, you bring it to me, I'm going to charge you $40 to set it up.
Yeah.
and I'm going to charge you $100 an hour for instruction. That's included with all my bows.
Yeah. The
So-
number of time. They go for it.
Yeah. So there's been a few times guys have taken them back and just bought them from me because of, hey, can you set them up? Well, you can bolt them on. Is it right? I can eyeball them closer than you'll ever get them just putting them on because you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Bring them to somebody, and one of the things I used to tell them is, the new archers, we put a stabilizer on because it helps multiple things other than just holding your sling on. It helps balance them and decrease the vibration. And, I'd put the cheapest one I had on, which is just, at that time it was, $10 stabilizer.
Yeah.
Put it on, have them shoot it. Then I pull off one of the $50 stabilizers. Now that would be probably 5 times that now, but I'd put the more expensive one on and shoot it. Can tell difference? Nope, buy the cheap one.
Yeah.
Because at that point, why spend the money? That was my thoughts. And I had guys come into the store that was recommended because they knew that I wouldn't try and oversell them. I'd sell them what they needed, not what I wanted them to have.
Yeah, I try to do the same thing. Like when I sell someone, like at the moment I only have one model of stabilizer, but like when I sell people weights, they go, "Oh, how much weight do I need?" I'm like, "Well, I've got a stack in my case. Here, just have fun, see what you like, and then maybe buy 1 or 2 ounces more than that, so you have something to play with if you want to later."
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, you can always find me and buy some more later. You don't have to buy them all now. Like, you don't have to spend $1,000 on everything all at once. You can do it kind of piecemeal and build it up over time.
Now, do you have different link stabilizers?
Yeah, we can. I make them all on demand. Like I buy the carbon fiber tube from a company down in the States here. I guess I should mention I'm up in Canada, here in the Great White North here. So I buy them from a company down in the States and then get them shipped up here. They come in 72-inch long lengths, so I can do anything from 4 inches all the way up to 74 inches. So whatever someone wants, if they want something custom to within a 1/4 inch or something, not a problem. Just let me know and we can make it up and go from there.
Yeah. So in setting up a stabilizer, what are you looking for when you put it on your bow? What are you expecting it to do?
Personally, I'm too worried about like vibrations and stuff. So I'm a target shooter. So I look mostly just for what gives me the steadiest result, basically for the least amount of weight, right? That's kind of what I look for. And then anything beyond that is kind of a bonus, at least personally.
So most of your stabilizer then are more for balance then?
Yeah. I'm because I do this part-time, like I work my day job down in a company doing aerospace work. And then I have my shop here that I do my own machine work and then the archery stuff on the machines behind me here. I don't have a lot of time to do a lot of R&D and stuff, but I'm slowly working through it and adding more stuff. The next thing that a lot of guys have asked for is like, okay, what do you do for vibration dampening and stuff like that? But I actually I'm trying to take some inspiration from, I'm not sure you can see that too well, but this is a piece of manufacturing equipment for our CNC machines and whatnot. And it's actually a vibration dampener to help improve surface finishes in your parts. So one of the guys at my day job smacked it up real good, broke it in half. So I took it apart and I'm trying to sort of reverse engineer it, but change it up enough that it would work for archery equipment, right? Because this thing here weighs probably about a good 2-3 pounds, which isn't going to be practical on the end of a, let's say, 30-inch long stabilizer, right?
No.
And it's also designed mostly for like a higher frequency of vibration from the cutting tool bouncing across material, which our bows don't have that high of a frequency, so we'd have to change it up to absorb that different frequency better.
Well, and a lot of these new bows don't have much vibration in them. It's not like the old ones, that bow would jump straight out of your hand. Now with the parallel limbs or beyond parallel limbs, the force is up and down, not forward. The old bows, the 38, 30, inch axle to axle, when they go off, there's a lot of forward force going on them. And, you know,
Yeah.
all my bows are older bows. So, you know, they have that, but I have dampening on them, and, you know, I'll go through and price with the newer ones, you really don't need much because it's kind of sits in your hand anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. At least I've only ever really shot two like higher end bows, and then I had a few lower end guys. But at least of the higher end ones, it was a PSC Supra and the PSC Expression. And for me, whether I had a stabilizer on it or off it in terms of vibration, there really wasn't much. And if there was any, it was mostly from the string moving. So it was hard to get it's hard to get that vibration out, right? Because it has to go through the riser, which is touching your hand, and then into that stabilizer. So,
Yeah, I know I take on my bows. It slows them down, but I put the string leeches on the strings as well as the cables. You know, so you know, I'll take the cable and take part of it, and, you know, just kind of pluck it, and it'll ring, and I'll put one of those in there and go thud.
yeah,
You know, that's noise. You know, I'm more for noise because I want to quiet a bow as I can. You know, considering I have an old bow, they're not super
they're not
quiet
as
anyway,
quiet.
but you know, I want it quiet, and it also reduces the vibration too, you know, which is
Yeah,
causing noise. And
yeah,
you know, it does slow my bow down, but you know, my 2001 PSE Carrera bow was rated at 320 feet per second.
yeah,
You know, that's a 20-some-year-old bow that was rated
yeah,
that fast. Now
yeah.
I don't
Like I
get it
think,
because multiple reasons, but
yeah, yeah. You're not shooting 70 pounds on a was it 32-inch draw or 30-inch draw with
70 pounds, 30-inch draw, 350 grain arrow, one knock point. I
yeah,
shoot
and no
70
fletching on
pounds,
the
but
arrow.
I shoot 70 pounds, but I don't shoot 30-inch draw. Like I shoot 29,
Yeah, yeah,
and I have more than knock point on there, so I'm not going to get the rated speed out of it.
no,
My hunting arrows are well over 350. They're around 4 something, but my
yeah.
target arrows are like 370.
Yeah, I think if I remember when I last weighed mine, they were 370, 390, somewhere in there for
Yeah,
mine. But yeah, like with Target, I'm capped out at 60 pounds anyways. So it's like I'm never gonna
yeah,
get those speeds anyways. So what really does it matter? Right, like I think I chronoed my arrows, they were doing 275 out of the Expression. I think that's IBO was like 325, I think, somewhere in that range.
yeah.
But
I don't remember on that.
yeah. And then my indoor arrows, which are even heavier, I think they were I can't remember how heavy they were, but I chromed that and they were going like 230. They were real slow.
Yeah. Well, you see a lot of the target shooters, you know, they're not shooting much weight. You know, you see guys out there could be shooting a lot more weight, but they're shooting 40 pounds because they can easily hold it back. There's not a lot of strain,
Yeah,
and you know, you get the big old long stabilizers on there, and then the V bars on there, and
yeah,
you know, it just sits there. I shoot my hunting setup.
yeah. Ultimately, the best like is whatever you're comfortable with is going to get you the best results, right? Like you
Yeah.
could be shooting 100 pounds, but that paper target, at least for target shooting, is still 50 meters away and it ain't moving, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's really windy, it's not gonna matter. Like
Yeah.
you guys that do more hunting stuff, then yeah, that poundage starts mattering for that bit of extra speed, penetration, and all that stuff. But for me in target shooting, it doesn't really matter. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, even when I would shoot, you know, like a 300 round or something like that, I still shot my hunting bow at 70 pounds.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
you know, for me, the last half I shot better than the first half. Even though I struggled more, I shot better.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
figure.
yeah, yeah. Like when I right now I haven't shot too many top tournaments lately, but when I was shooting tournaments a lot, we would do a double 720, so 720 in the morning and 720 in the afternoon. Afternoon score was always better than my morning score. Don't know why. Whatever. Maybe because I'm a little more tired. I'm slowing down a bit more and taking a little bit more time. But yeah, it always seemed to be in the afternoon on an overcast days when I would get my best scores.
Yeah. But you never know, you know, and you know, we'll go to a tournament and I say, you need a warm-up arrows? Nope. I'm a bow hunter. I don't get a warm-up arrow at a deer. My first
Yeah,
shot counts.
exactly. Yeah, that one shot, that's all you're really getting, it's gone. So
Yeah, you get one. Once in a while, you'll get two, but generally it's one shot and you're gone. You get one shot, one chance. So, I never go for, practice shots. I may draw the bow back just to, warm up the muscles, but I'm not going to go through doing any shooting. If I do with the release, I'm going to have the arrow on it. I'm just going to let down. I'm not going to shoot. I'm just making sure the muscles are working. And, that's all I'm doing. I don't want to shoot because I want to take that first perfect arrow and make it count.
yeah. Yeah, I just would take a few shots to make sure nothing got moved when I put my bow
Yeah.
back in the case, or shit brought it over or wherever it was going, just to make sure the rest of their sight hadn't moved, everything was the same. But yeah, you don't need, no amount of practice is really going to change anything at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just making sure all the equipment's still in good shape and you're able to go. And, if I take too many more of those shots, I get tired or more towards the end.
Yeah, like when COVID hit and all that, and everything kind of got shut down, long series of events got the shop, tournaments kind of got shot down. I haven't shot much in the last 2 years. Like I think I shot the Ontario Provincials 2 years ago, and then I shot the Ontario Provincials last summer, and then that's it. I think I've shot a grand total of maybe 300, 400 arrows in the last 2 years, which is really sad for me, because I used to shoot like 300-400 arrows a weekend, and every weekend, right? But yeah, I don't think I could even get through 72 arrows now.
Yeah.
So I need to. I got the shop here. I need to start doing some more shooting down over that way, where I got a target down there. But
Yeah, we're just gonna have to take a time during the day and just like, okay, I'm gonna go shoot. I get home from work, I go shoot my bow, a dozen arrows, and then at least you got something.
Yeah, exactly. Like my dream goal is I want to get the company up and running so I can quit my day job, and then I'm already here, so I might as well shoot some arrows while I'm here, right? But right now it's work the day job, come home, do the work here, and then by that point it's 9, 10 o'clock at night. It's time to go home.
Yeah.
So there's not much time left for shooting.
Well, and when you go full time here, then you'll be able to take and try different things on there and see how it affects your bow. And try different bows, and then have people come over. It's like, how's this work? How's this one work? Just try different things. And kind of hard to do that when you have a full-time job.
Yeah, like what I want to do, hopefully in the near future, is like I've got like the one stabilizer model that I make, but I want to start making like specialized ones for recurve versus compound. But I only shoot compound, so it's hard to test out what's good for a recurve bow when you've only got a compound.
Yeah, they're different.
Yeah, what I'd want to do is go and buy a proper recurve setup, and then start doing test shots with the other bows and comparing stabilizers. Like, okay, is the stiffer carbon fiber better for vibration absorption? What lengths are better versus the poundage of the bow, and go start doing all that testing and whatnot.
Yeah, and you've probably got some archers around there that use stabilizers that'd be glad to come in and try them out for you and see how they work.
Yeah, there's a handful here, but it's mostly I'm in a bit of, I'll call it an archery dead zone for for anybody who would actually want to or know anything about stabilizers and the differences between them, right? Because I'm about an hour north of Toronto, so you get quite a few target archers. It's this weird split in Ontario. You go south of Toronto, you get a lot of recurve guys. You go north of Toronto, you get a lot of hunters. It's mostly city down south of Toronto, and it's bush up north of Toronto, right? So a lot of the hunters, at least in this area, they just have the short little stabilizer. They shoot a few arrows at the beginning of the season, and then they're gone. You see this little graph of people. Okay, early spring, not much. Well, you start getting into like deer season. It's like whoop, all these hunters show up, and then they're gone after like a week or two, right? There's a small batch of us in this area, but for me to get to any significant number of people who would actually care or have the ability to give that feedback, I'd have to drive probably about an hour south of here.
Oh, yeah.
But
well, once you've done your research, then it might be worth it. Until then,
yeah,
have fun.
There's a range, an indoor range that I shot used to go to down south. I did some coaching out of there as well, but they've got 70 meters of indoor range. So what I want to possibly do in the near future, hopefully, is make up a bunch of sample sets, go down there and be like, hey, I'm going to be down here from this time to this time on this day. Who wants to come try some stabilizers and give you their feedback, right? Just to have different versions and different types in there, just to give them a try.
Good feedback and information when you get a whole bunch of people trying a whole bunch of different ones, and they can tell you what they like and why they like it. And just like when I saw somebody set up, determine which bow they like, I finally got down. I was like, you like this one or this one better, and why? I didn't care why. I just wanted them to say why. And, eventually you'll narrow it down. And sometimes, I got to where it's okay. Close your eyes and shoot. So you don't want to put it in your hands. You can't use that thing against, the visual thing is, okay, I like this one better. So I'm going to say it works better, even though it may not. And, that takes that.
Yeah, you do the same thing with the price of a bow, right? Some guys will go, oh, I want the best of the best, and I'll go buy the most expensive bow right off the bat. It's like, okay, but did you try anything else? Like, no, it was just the most expensive. It was the best one they had. Like, well, doesn't really, that's kind of counterproductive for the rest of your budget for everything else.
Yeah.
Right. So you got, like you said, just find the bow that fits you, right? Like when I first started getting the target, I went down to one of the bigger bow shops south of here. And I went in and I'm like, I'm going to buy a target bow. They're like, okay, which one are you looking at? I'm like, well, this very wide range of bows. And they're like, okay, well, we'll pull down, I think it was like 7 of the bows or whatever. Got them quickly adjusted to the draw length and just started taking shots in the shop before narrowing it down to the narrow range. And it wasn't about, price was important because I had a certain budget, but it wasn't, okay, let's go for the most expensive one because that's got to be the best. It was, what's the best one in the budget range that feels the best and seems to perform the best, right? Like, you just got to find that right bow.
Yeah. I know there's times when you pick up a bow, it's like you look at it and it's like, oh man, I like that bow. I want to shoot that bow. And you put it in your hand, feels good. You set it up for you.
Yeah.
And it does not fit you worth beans. I had one when I had my shop, Browning, which was owned by PSE at the time. They put out a bow that was counter rotating cams. The 2 top cams rotated opposite. When you drew it back, one rotate the other way. That's like, that is cool. I want to shoot that bow. It's like, it's like out in the shop. So if I want it, I just take it. And it was my bow. So I set it up, my length, everything. I just could not get it to shoot good for me. No matter what I did, it wasn't going to fit me. So I sold it. It fits somebody else just fine. But for me, I just couldn't get it to fit me. And, it didn't matter how much I wanted to shoot it because I just couldn't get it to fit me. And other bows, just you pick them up and it's like, ooh, that feels good. You set them up, right on.
Yeah, there was one bow that a guy, I can't remember, he had, it was like a OK Archery. I think they're out of like Denmark or something, if I remember. And it felt like you pick it up, you draw it, and it's like, oh, that's a good bow. But I never did end up like buying one or shooting one more than that. But it had a real nice draw on it. It was a neat bow.
Yeah, I've seen several new bow companies come out and I don't know how long some of them last. I don't think some of them last too long, but they come up and have some cool ideas, and some of them were just really, really weird ideas on a bow setup, and they don't ever stay very long, because most people just don't want to try those, way out there styles of bows. And
and well, even what I've found with my business is like, I'm not doing anything super crazy with the stabilizers, right? But people tend to want to stick with the brand names. It seems that from what I've seen is people have one of 2 options. They pick the cheapest no name that you can find, or they go with the more expensive brand name. If you're in that middle ground, you kind of have a rough time trying to convince people that you've got a legitimate product, because it's more expensive than the cheapest ones you can buy, but it's not as expensive as the most expensive ones you can buy. So it's just this weird middle ground where it's hard to get people to take you seriously, right?
Yeah. And that's where you've got to try them. Like you said, after you get a bunch of them up, go down to the range and try them. And then next thing you know, it's like, this one shoots better than anything I've shot before. I like this one, and this is why I like it. And this one I don't like. This is why I don't like this one. And then you can take that, and it's like someone else in the same situation.
Yeah.
This is the one that might work for them. And I know when I was a kid, I'd used to go into the speed shop, because we worked on pretty hot cars once in a while. And the lady behind the counter never turned a wrench, but she knew the answer to almost every problem you had. You go and say, here's what it is. Oh, this is the problem. Because she'd had so many people come in with a problem, come back and say, hey, this is what fixed it. And she remembered it. And, that's the thing that you got to get by is, not everybody is going to be an expert because they've done the work. They could be an expert because they pay attention to everything that's going on. They've done a lot of troubleshooting, looking at stuff, and that's in your job. There's going to be people out there that like, oh yeah, that's the problem, because they've seen it before. Where you may not have seen it, and it's like, what's causing this? It's like, oh yeah, you need to adjust this. That's what it is.
Yeah. Like at my day job, like I do CNC machining for aerospace, right? So every so often we get the new guys and they go, well, how does this, why isn't this working? I go, I don't know, but we'll figure it out, right? So whenever something goes wrong with one of the machines, I'm always the first guy behind the maintenance guy. It's like, you need a hand with that? I know there's a big loud thud and something's probably broken, but like, you need a hand trying to fix what's wrong, right? So now whenever one of the new guys does the same thing, I now have experience from when helping the maintenance guy. I can go, okay, well, it's either A, B, C, or D. Let's start eliminating options and go through the list, right?
Yeah.
So you can apply that principle to a lot of things. And even like you said, just someone who hears, oh, this was the problem, this was the solution. Just by hearing that and you remember it, you don't have to do it every day to become very knowledgeable in a subject, right?
Yeah, and what we're talking about fits right in with archery as well. So, the same thing applies, on a boat. So people have different problems with different things, and you just never know what's causing them. I've had people that, just cannot shoot very good. The paper's tearing all over the place. And it's like, no matter what I do, I can't get it adjusted.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let me shoot your bow.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't tear good, then we got something to look at, because there's all kinds of things can cause it. One, your grip. 2, your grip. 3, your grip. And then we start working on other things. So
yeah, like I said, when I did some coaching, a small bit of coaching a few years ago, and 99% of your problems is right here in your hand. It's not the bow, it's not what equipment you're using, it's this hand that's holding that bow, right? The number of times I'll go up to people and be like, okay, they're like, it keeps hitting my arm. I'm like, okay, if I come up to you and I start grabbing onto you and like shaking you, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, I'm probably going to hit you. It's like, well, that's exactly what the bow's doing. So stop death gripping the bow. It doesn't have legs. It's not running away. Let it hold on to it, and like, it's not going anywhere.
That's why I put a sling on it, because I don't hang on to it at all.
Well, they'll still do it with the sling too, right?
Like, yeah. Well, then I see some people adjust the sling so tight it's against the wrist and holding it. It's like, nah, it needs to be just loose enough. And I'll just let go of my bow and it sit there and hangs on the sling. And I just created the podcast come out just before this one. I kind of finished up a 2-series podcast on how to do line your feet up and how to use a release, where to anchor, how to use a handheld, how to use a wrist strap one, the shot process, the whole stuff going through the whole thing. And, that's how I do it. That's the best way for me. I'm going to teach you that way, and then we're going to modify it.
Yeah.
Teaching martial arts for over 20 years, the same technique works the same way for everybody, except I got to tell you one way, tell somebody else a different way, and demonstrate a little bit differently, because we all learn differently. And
like I did I did jujitsu for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, something like that. But I was a lefty. I shoot compound right-handed, but I fight left-handed. So whenever the teacher would demonstrate it, he would always demonstrate right-handed, because he was right-handed, but that's what most people are. So he's going to teach it to them. And then he'd be like, okay, you kind of have to just follow the footwork and figure out, just translate it. So you got kind of good at figuring that out. And it does apply a lot to archery as well. Like, you can watch someone do something and go, okay, well, they did it like this and like this. Now why? And you break it back down and try and incorporate it and see if it works. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then you try something new.
Yeah. And the same thing, applies no matter what sport you're doing. But, I did Hapkido for about 20 years. And, we have a lot of joint locks and working with, power. And one of the things that I teach is I want you to have your toes pointing straight to the target and right off to the side. And the disadvantage of the way I teach it, if you grip that bow, you will hit your arm.
Yeah.
You will hit your arm. If you try and push it out too far, you will hit your arm. If you do it correctly, you're not going to hit your arm. I don't wear a sling. I don't even hit my arm when I'm wearing a big heavy coat, because of my grip, and I run a little bit half that shorter draw length. I run 29, so 29 and a half, and I don't hit my arm. And I want it off to the straight, because what I want to do is I want to take that hand and push straight to the target. When it goes off, I want my arm pointing to where the target is. And I'll use a practice string. I've said this in some of the other ones. So I'll take a string, put around my thumb, my draw length, and then I will shoot. If that string hangs up or does not go straight, my form is wrong. Once that goes straight to the target off my hand, my form is right. I'm pushing straight to the target, and most efficiently. And same thing I use for setting up loops, for your arrow. I want it to directly behind the arrow, not above it, not behind it. If you put a knock point on, you got to put 2 on. Because if you don't, you're pushing that arrow at a little bit of an angle. And I'll tell people, it's like, okay, set a pencil on your desk or on a table or something, and now push straight from the eraser to the tip, and it'll go straight. Now, slight angle, and it wants to turn. That's what you're causing your arrow to do by putting that loop on in the wrong spot and not putting it on correctly. I don't use knock points on them. I've never had a move. In fact, when I tie them on the way I tie them on, the trick is wax your string before you tie the knots. It gets much tighter, and make sure you get them on tight. You have to cut mine off. You can't untie them. They're just...
It's the same with mine. Like I don't use like the brass points. I'll have just take some serving material, do a couple of loops, and basically do another set of serving over top of the serving that's there, one on each side, and then put my D loop on, just so it doesn't wear up the D loop as much. But and if I have to take the D loop off, I don't lose my knocking point, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, those, they never come off. I gotta get a knife and cut them off. They don't like, basically they end up threaded on. The serving is basically a thread down, or like a screw thread almost. So if I need to make a small adjustment of the knocking point, I just take and I spin it. That's how tight I keep them. So they basically thread onto it.
Same as mine. If I need to do a little tweak, I'll just, mostly I'll just do like maybe half a turn to get the peep to line up. That's all I'm changing is for peep alignment. I'm not trying to adjust the knock point, because if it's off by that much, you got to.
Yeah, you probably have to redo it anyways.
And I set mine up, so it's center shot. I have a laser that I can take my sight off and bolt the laser on, and shine the laser on the string so it lines up in the string, and shine it clear out to the tip, and adjust the left and right until that lines up perfectly. Now you're perfectly center shot. And then I'll put a level. First you have to level your riser. So it's level, but putting the string on level on your string, making sure it's plumb, and then put it arrow put a level on the tip of the arrow and adjust that knock point until it's level. And then that's where you tie it on. So you're level and you're square. The only thing is different is adjusting your sight for that third axis when you're pointing up or downhill. And you know, with the right jig, you could do that. Without a good jig, you might as well not even try.
It becomes hard. Yeah. I was lucky, like the one club I shoot at during the winter down, they've got I haven't been there in a while, but I'm pretty sure they still have an entire room with an arrow saw, bow press, all the vices and all that stuff. So the number of times the guy will come in and be like, oh, hey, like, can you help me fix this thing, right? Like something happened with my bow, so on and so forth. Like if you were to talk to my fiance, she'd be like, the number of times you told me, I'm heading out the door. I'm all packed up. I'm heading out the door. And it'll be 3 hours later, and I'm sitting there fiddling with someone's bow. Not even my own bow. It's just somebody else's.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure I've spent more time working on other people's bows, just being nice and being the local archer guy, and just going, oh yeah, here we'll fix this. We'll tilt the cam a little bit. We'll level this out, and 3 hours later, now she's pissed. Like, where are you? It's still an hour drive to get home.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that when you have a shop, you're constantly working on bows and making arrows. And when I had my shop, I had no fletched arrows. I only bought shafts. And almost exclusively PSE shafts, some gold tips. That's pretty much all I stocked down there. And you know, all my arrows were custom made. What colors you want. And you know, you could do, you know, 4 or 5 inch, 3-inch vanes. You could do 4 or 5 inch feathers. You know, I kept all the feathers because that's what I shoot. That's what I started with in the 60s. I still shoot feathers on my arrows, 4-inch feathers, and I see no reason to change.
Again, going back to what we said earlier, if it works, it works. Why mess with it, right? Like
well, and the difference between shooting feathers and vanes, if it's shooting in the rain, you might be better off with the vanes. But I've been out hunting and rained on me. The arrow that I have knocked is getting a little bit wet. I pull it off and change it for a dry one that's just hanging up. I take my quiver off and hang it upside down, so that I can grab an arrow and load it. I don't have it on my bow because I don't practice with it on my bow, so I don't hunt with it on there. I'm walking in with it on there. Once I get there, I have a little thing that screws in the tree, have another receiver, pull it off, stick it in the one, I'm done. You know, my arrows are not on me and handy there, and I don't have to worry about getting in the way. And
well, you said you only get one shot, so it's like as long as it's within arm reach that you can grab the second one if you miss, and you're ready for the next one. But it's not like you need to shoot real quick to get that next one off.
No. Although I have done that at 2 different deer. I was shooting at one deer, and then I heard off to my left another one coming in. So I shot that one, watched which way it ran, so I know which way it wins. Turned around, loaded an arrow, drew back, and waited for the other one to come out in the opening, and shot another one. I had cleaned 2 that day. Track 2 and clean 2, and hauled 2 of them out.
That's don't know much about hunting, but based off listening to some of your other podcasts, like you can go days without getting one. The fact you get 2 in one day is unbelievable.
And then you always got to make sure you have plenty of arrows with you. And make sure your quiver is full of 6. I did one time. I had like 2 or 3 arrows because that's all I had ready. And I went out and I shot. I was like, I missed. Darn. I was out of arrows and I still had deer coming by. And I still hadn't hit one. I don't know what I was doing that day, but I missed the 2 or 3 arrows I had with me. And I had no more. And I should have watched the deer go walk by because I wasn't going to go down and get the arrow because it was dull. I don't carry extra blades with me.
For me, when I do target stuff, I always make sure I've got 12 arrows in my quiver in case I bust a bunch of knocks or something. And then at the break or something, I've got in my case, I call it the fix it kit. If it's a basic repair, I can pull out this kit. It's got serving, it's got D-loop, spare knocks, pins, points, fletching, glue, everything. If you've got a minor repair that needs to be done, I can hand you this bag and you can get your arrows fixed up or get any minor repairs done, right? So you never always make sure you never run out of arrows.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember the
And
first 3D I went to, I had, I forget how many, like 6 arrows or something like that. And I'm hoping to get through it with arrows left. Yeah, it's my first one. I didn't know what to expect. And I'm going out there, it's like, and you go find it. And then it's all in tall grass. You ain't finding it in tall grass.
Yeah.
And finally it's like, then I got to where, okay, now I can do them. And then I got to where I could, okay, 1 arrow through the whole course, you know, and then, you know, as you get better at it, but you got to start with, you got to have a lot of arrows.
Yeah. Then you got to be careful with the other guys if you're shooting a tournament and start them taking out your arrow instead.
Yeah.
Right. Like just before COVID, I was like, you know what? End of I guess it'd be end of 2019, heading into the winter. I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe next year I'm gonna shoot a 3D tournament. Why not? Let's go shoot a 3D tournament. We'll buy all the arrows, we'll get everything set up. And then March comes around 2020. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not doing that this year. And,
yeah, that kind of messed up a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a problem.
Yeah, to put it mildly.
Overblown problem, I think, though. But
yeah, I'm perpetually the middle ground between the two extremes of society. Where I'm like, okay, like, yeah, we probably should shut some things down. Yeah, okay, let's wear the masks. But it's like, is it really as bad as everyone's making it out to be? It's like, I don't know. It's like, be careful, but at the same time, yeah.
I thought it was amazing how nobody was catching a cold, you know, during that time.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, what's the symptoms of it? A cold. And people, if they'd have a cold, they'd stay home. Where before, they'd go out and infect everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, I got a cold. Yeah. Stay home.
Yeah. Like every year I would get a cold. I would always get the sniffles no matter what. But I think a combination of people staying home more and me wearing a mask, I haven't had a cold in like 3 years now. So it's like, I don't know, man. Like, it's like, should we wear masks more or not? I don't know.
Depends on what you're doing and what you can do. It's the ones that they always see anybody wearing. I can't wear them.
Yeah.
As I'm breathing, it blows up in my eyes, makes my eyes water, and I can't breathe in them. But I wear respirators quite often because you can breathe through them.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the difference. I can't breathe through those, and I have trouble, you know, because I'm sitting here, you know, just right here talking, and my heart rate's 59.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nothing for me to go down. You know, if I'm sitting there doing nothing, there's been times like, okay, I'm falling asleep. I had trouble breathing. It's like, 51 heart rate.
Yeah.
So with a slow heart rate and low respiration, those masks I just can't wear them. But if I'm out doing stuff with a respirator, I'm just fine. And
for me, my issue is that you wear the mask, you start breathing in it, and then my glasses would fog up, right? So I couldn't see. And then if I'm wearing my safety glasses at work, same problem. So it's like, okay, do I wear the mask or do I wear the safety glasses? It's like you kind of got to pick your evils at a certain point and kind of just go, right? Because the shop were like, you need to everyone should be wearing a mask if you're near other people, but if you're not, you can take it off just as a precautionary thing. So you'd see guys that are like doing something real close to something, they can't take their glasses off, they don't have the mask on, but then afterwards they put it back on. And
I remember one time I went in this story, had to have a mask, and I had my mesh when I use, you know, like when you're hunting, is complete mesh. It just has the eyes open. I put that on, that was fine. It was a mask.
It's a mask.
It was a mask.
I went out and I'm like, if I got to wear a mask, I'm going to have some fun with it. So I went out and I got some masks with a Grey Wolf, like a muzzle, so to speak, printed on it.
Oh.
So whenever I was going around doing Grey Wolf Archery stuff, it was like, well, it's pretty obvious where I'm from if I'm wearing that, and I got my shooting jersey that says Grey Wolf Archery on it. But it made it pretty. It was amusing. People got a laugh at it. I was like,
Yeah.
you can either you can be angry about having to do it, or you can have some fun.
Well, and I took one place I was working, you had to wear a mask unless you was eating and all this kind of crap. And they'd hand you those masks coming in, which they contaminate them when they hand them to you. But I had my scent lock hoodie,
Okay.
the bacala that I put on. So it actually charcoal lined.
Okay.
So it actually would do some good because it was filtered through a charcoal filter. And
Yeah.
I put that on because I didn't want those other things because I could breathe through that a little bit better. And after a while, I still got where it's burning my eyes wearing one of those.
Yeah.
And even riding my motorcycle, I have to wear a full helmet because I can't take the wind in my eyes. They just water. And it's like, okay, I might as well close my eyes and drive because I can't see anyway.
Yeah, drive by braille.
Yeah. If you had those little vibration things in the middle and the side, you could, okay, I'm on that one. Let me go to the other one here. Let me just bounce between the two of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not sure if you guys had them down in the States, those vibration strips on the edge of the road.
Yeah.
But my sensei, one of the younger kids, they were talking about something and driving came up. And he said something along the lines of, oh, you know what those vibration strips are for on the edge of the road? And the kid's like, no, I don't know. They don't drive. And he's like, oh, it's for the blind people so they don't go off the road. The kid's like, wait, blind people can drive? It's like, no, they can't.
Yeah, I always wanted to try and teach a blind person to shoot with a bow and
Yeah.
just see how we could do it, at a distance. And it's like, okay, here's where we're at. Okay, there's you're shooting a little bit high, and then adjust them. And it's like, okay, no eyes, just all feel. And I'll do that sometimes too, is have them shoot with their eyes closed, because you can feel what your body's doing. You can feel what the bow is doing. And shooting at blank bales is another great training tool. And one of the things I used to do with some of the guys when they're adjusting them, they're just all over the place. And I tune up their bow. It's all shooting lights out. I'll take a 1-inch wide black strip, put it horizontally, and say, okay, shoot that black strip. Don't care where it's at. It can be anywhere on that black line. And they'll shoot it, and they'll be hitting that black line most of the time. They're going to hit that black line or be real close to it. And I turn it, so it's up and down, and shoot it. And they're hitting that line. No problem, because your mind will let you float sideways or up and down on it. And I say, okay, now you can hit a 1-inch horizontal line, a 1-inch vertical line. Your X ring is a 1-inch diameter circle.
Yeah.
You should be able to hit that X ring every time. You just proved you can do it.
Yeah. It's all just a mental game, right? Like
there's a lot of tricks in learning to do stuff. And one of the things that I do is when I'm teaching an archer, the correct way a release should feel. It should be a total surprise. So I'll tell them, okay, you're going to draw back, keep your finger way above your trigger, not like you're supposed to, but get your anchor point, finger above the trigger. All you're going to do is aim. I'll be pulling that trigger at some point. You won't know when. Aim, and I'll squeeze that trigger. 9 times out of 10, they hit what they're aiming at.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, that's what it should feel. If it don't feel like that when you release, you did it wrong. That is the release.
Yeah, I had that done to me a few years ago when I went down to the Gator Cup down in Florida. And we went as a training camp with some of the Canada archery guys. And so they're like, okay, put this wrist strap on and draw your bow back. Okay, draw lengths all the way back here because I shoot a hinge. But they're like, okay, now close your eyes. And then they go, smack that trigger. And sure enough, it's like, okay, do that a few more times. Like you shouldn't know when it's going off. If you do, you've got a problem. And I'm real bad for it. I'll sit there and go with my I guess my ring finger there with a hinge, because I've always had this perpetual problem where I'm always hovering right at the bottom of the 9 ring. Always, I'll get it up in there, and I'll hold, and I'll pull it, I'll pull it, I'll pull it. Like, is it? I've always had this problem, and I just hopefully when I get back to shooting again, I'll be able to, after I've taken basically a 2-year hiatus, be able to go, okay, we're gonna start from fresh. We're gonna go, and we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna nice and pull and nice surprise, nice and pull and just work through it again.
Yeah, when I was first learning back tension release, they had us, about 3 feet from the target, far enough that the arrow was actually out of the bow. You could just lean forward to grab it and pull it out.
Yeah.
There's like 20 of us on this line, and we're shooting with our eyes closed until we feel this going off, and then we open our eyes, and then we can't do it. Close our eyes so we can finally open our eyes and feel that same thing, and we're shooting.
Yeah.
Now there may be sights on your bow, but there's no target to aim at. It's just a cardboard backstop. There's nothing there. So finally you're getting where you're shooting with your eyes open, and now then you can start doing your aiming. And then when you have trouble with it, go back up where you can't miss it and shoot with your eyes closed. And that's where I come up with the string on my thumb, because now I can practice that same technique and not have to shoot an actual bow. Because when in a tournament, sometimes I've been in tournaments, like it's not feeling right. Something not feeling right. So I'll grab that string out and I'll practice shooting that thing a few times. Like, yeah, that's right. My form is off because it's hanging up on my thumb. And I was like, okay, now it's going to now, and then try one more time, and away we go. Something happened to your camera.
Oh, yeah, I'm working on it. Don't worry. Technical difficulties. We got it.
Yeah, you must have a Nikon web camera.
Yeah, don't worry, I got her. We'll get her back up. I just gotta find the battery for her.
Battery died.
Yeah, that's all that happened.
Yeah. No, we can still talk though.
Oh yeah, don't worry. I'm grabbing a new one right now. I pop a new one in. We're good to go. I got them all charged up.
I've got a Logitech that plugs into USB ports, so I don't have to worry about batteries.
Yeah, mine should be charging on it, but I don't know why it's not.
Technology. That's how it goes.
Yeah. Worst case, I can always flip it back to the other camera.
Yeah, when I first started doing recording and stuff, I was using my laptop camera, and it was okay. So I got this Logitech, and it's like, oh man, you could tell if I shaved or not, with this new camera.
Yeah.
I was blurry enough you couldn't tell. I could not shave for 3 or 4 days and wouldn't know it. Now it's like miss one day and you can tell.
Yeah. I'll just switch back to this one. Yeah. It's amazing the difference in the cameras, right? Like
oh yeah. This one has like a little haze behind it, because it's
glare
from the light.
Yeah, it's just the built-in light on the actual camera. It turns on when it's recording, but it creates a glare on it. So it's just I don't know. That's why I hooked this one up. I'm like, okay, we'll do this, try and do something nice and make it look better. But technology.
Yeah. Hey, it's all good. We can hear you and see you, and it's nice. I like having on camera so that at least those watching the video, can see us on here and talking, and I think it's a little more personal. I'd rather do it in person, but I'm not driving all over the world, flying all over the world to do an interview for an hour or two.
I don't think you want to come. Where are you out of?
Nebraska.
So probably like a 20-hour drive to get here.
Yeah, probably. Although I did drive down to Florida from here for an event down in Florida, and that was like 24 hours drive time altogether. Now I didn't drive it straight through. I did stop.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for you getting to Ontario would be getting around the Great Lakes. That would be your bigger problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I went up moose hunting back I think about 95 in Ontario.
Yeah.
that was fun. It was with a rifle. I'd really done
Yeah.
with a bow, but I'm glad I had the rifle because, but the only one I seen was on the next hill over, and probably a good 300-yard shot, and I got it. But I
Yeah.
I spent my high
I,
school years on a rifle team, so
yeah. Yeah. I had my old next door neighbor. He was a hunter himself, but he used a shotgun and a rifle. And me and my fiance used to live in a basement apartment. And every so often, it wouldn't be unusual come the fall and hunting season and all that to see a little bit of blood and some feathers in the driveway. It's like, okay, well, we're 90% sure his wife's still alive, but we're pretty sure it's duck or deer blood. But you do that anywhere else, if you're like, do I actually want to go inside?
yeah, it's like when you get a deer and you clean it out, you have the carcass left, and then you get rid of it. And I found the way to do it is take them big, thick, heavy plastic bags and wrap it up in that, and then wrap it again, and it don't smell.
Yeah.
You can dispose of it that way, and because you don't want to just leave it out someplace to get all the bugs and critters and animals and stinking, and so I just get rid of them, and that way.
Yeah, he had a big chest freezer in the garage there that he would, whatever he got, he'd throw it in the chest freezer and butcher it up at some point. He actually used to own a butcher shop up here. It was kind of funny because there was a long story short, they had a big not ceramic, but like a plastic moose or a cow on top of their butcher shop. So I remember hearing like a story, some teenagers or whatever had climbed up the building and stolen this big cow. Like it's like basically a life-size cow that they just took off the roof and stole somewhere. I remember seeing the news story, and when we moved in, I'm like, oh, I know that last name. You own such and such butcher. He's like, how do you know that? I'm like, oh, you had your cow stolen back in 2007 and blah blah blah. He's like, how do you remember this? Like 10, 12 years later, like how?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I was young and it was a funny story, so it's just stuck in my mind.
Yeah. Sometimes those funny stories they'll stick in there forever, and the ones you want to remember, it's like I forgot it the next day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have the worst memory. I swear to God, I'm a goldfish. Like I put to make sure I didn't forget about our meeting here. I had like 5 different notifications, reminders of to go. Okay, pop up on my phone the day before, the day of, an hour before, half hour before. I'm like, you're not forgetting about this. You will make sure.
Yeah, I use my Google Calendar for everything. If it doesn't show up in there, I most likely I'm going to miss it because
Gone.
yeah, yeah, I keep it in there, and when I schedule podcast stuff, I send out a link to and it links into my Google Calendar.
Yeah.
And I was using a different program to schedule them, and there it didn't actually create a Zoom link. I actually had to change it to a Zoom link, open it up and say make it a Zoom call. I'm using Calendly now, and I got the free version, so I only get one calendar, but and it I can't send out reminders, but it automatically makes it a Zoom call for me, so I don't have to worry about going in, open them up. It makes a Zoom call, and I just go in and look at it. It's like change color to red, so it pops up good in my calendar.
Yeah. When you sent me the link to like pick the time for when you wanted to have the recording, I'm like, this is a neat little system. This is pretty great.
Yeah. I had another one that was pretty nice because I had I had more information on it. I had like a picture on there and a whole bunch of stuff on there. Calendly doesn't let me to do that stuff, at least on the free version. But it does allow me to pick it. You can schedule a call, you can reschedule it. I mean, you can cancel it, all within there. You should have all the links right in there when you sign up for it. It gives you all that information, so you can, if you have to reschedule, just click reschedule. It books another time. You just got to find a time in my calendar. And now it's going to be a little bit more difficult because I did start one of those W-2 jobs here this beginning of this week.
Yeah.
Little extra cash coming in, so that kind of took the day part out. But I work 7 to 3:30 or 7 to 4. Because when I first started this week, I didn't have my drive home times, and you schedule at 5, and I didn't know if it could work 8 to 5 or what. So it's like, oh, you can come. What time you want to come in? 7.
Yeah.
So I
That's
get
not
off
gonna
early.
work.
Yeah, and it gives me more time in the evening to put these in here. So it's just those work really nice because they link right in your calendar, automatically schedules it, finds the time that's available, and so I tell them, it's like, hey, if it's available, I'm available.
Yeah, like, and it sunk right up to my phone. All I had to do is adjust the reminders to put more of them in. That was already in there. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, that works pretty nice. I've been using something like that for a couple of years now. Doing affiliate marketing, and I started a different group, Retired in Style. That one is growing really big. I just hit 3,000 members in that one. And that's just growing like crazy.
Yeah.
And then I was challenged to start a podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll do 2 podcasts a month. Like, what am I going to talk about? Archery. I can talk about archery all day long. So I started the podcast, doing it once a week. And then it's like, okay, now I need something to, give people. So I made up a checklist for new archers. What do you need to know before you even go to this bow shop? You really want to know, why you're doing it, what type of bow you're looking for. Did you see, Hunger Games, you're interested in recurves or something, whatever type of bow you want to kind of some idea before you get there. You don't know what your dominant eye is, because I could tell if you need right or left-handed bow. There are a few cases where we don't shoot dominant eye, but that's generally because there's a physical problem. You can hold it the right hand and draw it the left, but you're right eye dominant, or left eye dominant, you're opposite. So we have to look for it. And so then I did that, and it's like, well, I guess I'll play setups. So that's when I started the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group.
Yeah.
And then I started, going out different groups and stuff, and people would say, hey, how's my form?
Yeah.
And people would respond with, practice more.
Yeah.
That is the absolute wrong answer, because it's a no answer. And, the groups that allow you to post links, I'd say, hey, come join this group, upload your video, we'll critique it. And we still do that. If you upload a video, we'll give you pointers.
Yeah.
We have, instructors like me. I've been an archery instructor since 95, and there's other guys that are instructors and bow techs. I've been working on bows since 2001, professionally. That's when I bought my store. I went down, spent a week down in Tucson, Arizona at the PSC dealer school, and I spent a week down there learning how to tear bows apart, put them back together, make the steel cables, which you don't do anymore.
No.
I was going through my miscellaneous archery stuff, and I come across a set of steel cables with cams. I think it was for one of the PSE Novas. I think a 49-inch cable. It's like all made up, ready to go.
Yeah.
and last time I heard, they're about $100 a piece for the cables to buy them. And this is the one that has a little bead, a little cylinder crimped on part of the cable in a certain specific spot. And those are no fun to make.
No.
You have to buy the blank with them already on them, because you're not getting that on there and crimping it in a good spot.
Yeah.
So that was an art. I make the strings are easy to make now. I got the string jig and all the strings, and when I had my store, I just custom made all the strings. I didn't stock any of them because there's too many to stock. If I'm stocking all the PSEs, and I got to stock all the Bears and all the Matthews and all the. I wouldn't have to do Matthews because they got a Matthews dealer in town anyway. But I had to stock all those. And what's the chance of me having the right one when you come in? Like one guy called me. I think we closed at 8. I think he called about 7 and says, hey, do you have a string for my bow, or can you make them? Because he knew I made them. And I says, I don't. Drop your bow up and we'll make the strings. Says, I got a tournament tomorrow. I need a new string. Okay.
Yeah.
Show up. We'll get it. So he walked in, and it was one of those Dartons that have the extra skinny cam
Oh,
track
yeah,
in
yeah,
them.
yeah,
So, and I knew it was skinny. So I normally make, if it's like 14 to 16 strands, I'll make them at 14. I'll kind of put them in the middle. No, the higher poundage bow, I might go a little bit higher, and lighter poundage go a bit lighter. So I started making it, and we got far enough. We got the one end served, tried it in the cam, too big.
yeah,
Throw it away. It's not worth tearing apart. It takes longer to tear apart than to make a new one. And by the time you make one string, you pay for that roll.
yeah,
When you buy it,
yeah,
or buying the big bulk rolls. So I made another one, got him all ready, out the door, less than an hour.
yeah,
And he had what he needed. Then he had to go shoot down at the club to get it broken
yeah, to
in.
get it all yeah, yeah,
They got to break it in a few hours and then go home and sleep and go to the tournament. But I never did talk about that, how he did the tournament, but that's why you have the stuff to do that. And I still make them. Now the new bows, you're going to have to get the string off because I can't press them. I got one of the old bow presses for the old style bows.
yeah,
So even some of the little bit newer ones, I still have trouble with them because they're getting so short. But now the parallel limbs beyond parallel, I can't even use my portable jig, which has a little hook in there. I had one that was a Bowtech, and it curled over so far. I couldn't safely even press that one. So it's
like I've got the same thing. I've got my bow case, little repair bag that I mentioned before, and then I've got a toolbox that I call the oh crap box. Like something more significant has happened, but you can't get to a shop. Like nothing's broken, but like you've lost a peep, you've derailed your bow, but the string's not broken. Other more involved repairs. I've got a portable bow press in there. I've got spare strings. I've got screwdrivers, Allen keys. If it's something that can be fixed on the field, that box probably has it in it. But if you've got at a certain point, you got to just bring it up.
Yeah. Well, and when you're going, those are good if you're going on a hunt someplace where you're not going to be, close, like, up in the mountains or someplace out. Take an extra set of strings and cables for your bow and take your portable bow press.
Yeah. I've always got an extra set in my bag, no matter what.
And it's good if you take a set, you get it broken, it's all set exactly what you want. Take it off, put a new set on, break that in. That is your emergency set. When that one wears out, put that old one back on and make you a new one. And then cycle through them, and you're out there with that portable bow press. You can do most anything you want, and or
won't
carry
be perfect,
two bows,
but it's better. Or carry two bows. Yeah, it won't be perfect just slapping it back on there, but it's still better than nothing, right? So
right
at the point where at the point where you're taking the strings off, you're kind of in a bad spot.
Right. And you can put a clip in them so that that they need to be, they're not twisted extra. And then you put them on, make sure you don't twist them, you roll them around, don't twist it any. And then you should be able to if your 20-yard pin is on, the rest of them are going to be on most likely anyway. So if that's off, now you got to figure out why it's off. And at that point it's moving the cage up or down. Because you can't move the pin, you got to move the awl, because if the same, everything else is the same, you're that's all you can do. And
your pin spacing should theoretically be the same.
It's still worth taking a few shots if you have to go that much work. Take some shots of the longer shots, and just to see where they're at. One of the things that I'll tell people to do when they're to test out their pins, because some people will cant their bow slightly. And the old pins, my old sights, didn't matter. You can cant them cut out because you can adjust in and out, so you can get them set. I said, take your target, whatever distance you're going to shoot at, 20 yards, 10 yards, take your 20-yard pin, put it right there on the X, shoot. Now go to your 30-yard pin and shoot 40, 50, 60, however many pins you have on there. Or if you have a single pin, just adjust your pin. and see if it doesn't go straight up and down, either your sight is got a little lean to it, or your bow, you're leaning.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where that third axis adjustment will make sure the bow is set. And
Yeah.
for those that don't know, what you do with that is you put it in a jig, and the jig is all leveled, your bow is all level and plumb, and now the jig is set up so you can tilt it forward, and you watch your level on your bow, for your sight. You watch it, and if it doesn't stay where it's supposed to be in the middle, you may have to put a little shim either on the bottom screw or top screw to shim it. Now, some of your a little bit more expensive sites actually have an adjustment for that third axis. So then you adjust it so it's on perfect. And now if you're shooting up or downhill, you're not shooting off the sight, because the last thing you want to do is shoot downhill, and all of a sudden your pin is you're shooting way left or way right. It's because the sight isn't set up like it's supposed to. And that's part of going through and getting a super tune on your bow.
Yeah, like when I first started getting more serious into shooting, I started young, and then when I got my driver's license, I could drive myself to the range, and I started shooting more. I started noticing, like, my first bow was just a simple 5-pin sight on just a generic, I think it was a Bowtech Flatliner. It was a bow that was only ever released in Canada anyways. But I started shooting more, and I'm like, I'm hitting perfect at 20, 30, 40, 50. Like, up and down is good, but it keeps tilting. I'm holding it, you could, like, I'm looking at it like, okay, I'm holding the bubble level and the sight level, but it's still going on an angle. Heck. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever. We'll deal with it for now. As I got further into it, I started buying all the bow levels and all the other stuff. So I put the level on the riser, on the flattest part of the riser I could find, and I held them both at the same time. And I'm like, huh, because one was like this, one was like that. And I'm like, okay. So where the sight was mounted to the riser was cocked out to one side. So I took a piece of plastic packaging I had found in the recycling from somebody else's sight, took a pair of scissors, cut basically a small little shim out, stuck it on the one side, got it as close as I could, just starting out. Like, at the time, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know, this might work. And got it pretty damn close, and it was like, oh, that's much better. So
Yeah.
you'd be surprised what a little bit of a shim can fix.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and you have the same thing when you have, like your cams. Some bows are supposed to have a lean on them, and others aren't. So you need to, before you start playing with that, you need to know, pretty much when they come new from the factory, they're shimmed and they're positioned correctly. That's when you start tearing them apart that you have problems. And alignment left and right, you'll pull one off sometimes, and if you're not paying attention, okay, there's a thick spacer here and a thin one here. If you get them reversed, now you're way off, and you can very easily derail your bow, especially if you drop back with fingers. I've seen so many people do this. Draw back with their fingers, and they're gripping that bow, and they're actually twisting the riser slightly off to the side and let down. And what they're doing is they're come right off the string.
Yeah,
let down, it comes right off.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, I've seen that too, because like I said, here it's kind of like a bit of an archery dead zone. So the one little range that the one range we have here, you get a lot of new archers coming through. So you see a lot of people dry firing bows, torquing things real bad, and you're like, ooh, I'm gonna go shoot over here for a little while you guys shoot over there. Just hope you don't get, like, there's been so many times where I go over, I'm like, okay, what you're doing is not safe. Like, I've literally had arrows fired at me while I was getting my arrows down range. Like, you got, like, when you get new archers doing some things, you're like, oh, you gotta be careful.
Yeah, you definitely gotta do that. And if they're not doing it safely, just tell them, it's like, you're not being safe. You have two choices. Either leave or let me show you the right way to do it.
The worst I ever saw was, like I said, I've had an arrow shot at me. Was I was walking back from 50 meters. They had like a 3D alligator target set up at about 20 yards, 20, 30 yards, somewhere in there. And this kid had to have been 12 or 15 years old, something like that. And I'm walking back. The alligator's in line with the 50-meter target. And
yeah.
as we're walking back, he shoots one into the alligator. I'm probably maybe 10 yards behind it. I'm like, you do not, at the top of my voice. I yelled so loud. I'm like, if he had missed, I could have got that in the shin, the chest, anywhere. I've
Yeah.
seen arrows bounce off the ground and go right to the sky, and you never see them again. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I was livid that day. I probably yelled at him more than, well, maybe not more than I should have, but I yelled at that kid for until I got from 20 yards back to the line. I'm like, but hopefully if he's still shooting, he got the message and he hasn't nearly killed someone again.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't shoot when anybody's downrange. That's just common sense. That's like, okay, I'm shooting directly at this person just lower.
Yeah.
What made him think that was safe?
Yeah, like this range, it's fairly wide, so like you could probably shoot, I don't know, 50 or 80 meters wide down on the range. So they've got little like rope dividers, kind of splitting up the
Yeah.
sections. They've got like a youth section where all the targets are real close. They tell people, okay, if you've got like an adult bow at like 30, 40 pounds, don't shoot at the youth targets because they're softer. And then they've got a crossbow range and so on. So people will think, oh, I'm in a different range. The rope divider makes this a separate area. I'm like, arrows don't follow the rules of rope. Like
Right.
air is still air, whether there's a rope there or not. Like you don't shoot one anywhere when someone's downrange.
Right. Yeah, that's just plain common sense.
Yeah. Like there's a very select few people I'd be comfortable walking downrange while they shoot. And that group is very small. They're very good archers, right? Like
a group of 0 to 1.
Well, yeah, I pretty close to 1. I've shot with some of our Canadian national team and whatnot, so I know like I if I were standing next to a target, I'd have 99% certainty that they weren't going to hit me. But even still, I'm not walking downrange while they're shooting. Like it's not worth the risk. Like.
Well, and things happen too. Things can break.
Yeah.
Using a release, it can break. I actually had one break.
Well, I had my whole riser break.
Oh, I did too. There's old American whitetail, or American Challenger, and I'm getting ready for hunting season, and I'm shooting, and I just cannot get that sight sighted in. Every time I shoot, I adjust it, and it's even worse. So finally I said, okay, I'm going to go right closer to the target and see where I'm at. So I shot, and I'm holding the bottom half of the riser, the top half come back and smack me in the chest.
Oh.
Yeah. So I got 2 pieces of a bow, like a week or 2 before hunting season starts. So now I'm out trying to find a bow. And I went to the one shop. I bought my first PSE. I forget which one it was. It was an old one, back overdraws and everything else on them. And I shot that. That was good. And it was too long for me. It was like 32-inch draw length, because that's what when I finally did get my first bow, I went to the shop and they said, here, draw it back. I drew it back, and it's, how's that feel? Okay, it's 32-inch draw length. I was 29 and a half.
I was unaware you were 7 foot tall.
Well, I do have long arms, but not that long.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I went down to learn back tension release that they tested our draw length. And it says, I'm 29.5-inch draw length. I have a 32-inch draw length bow. This is a Friday night. There's a Saturday night class and a Sunday class. That says, if you want to still come and teach you, you have to have your bow down at 29.5 inches before Saturday night. So Saturday, I'm doing whatever I can, shorter strings, longer cables, getting everything all set up. I got it down to my 29.5, and I'm shooting. It's like, I don't like this. This don't feel right, because I'm used to drawing way back here, I stretched way out, and I'm shooting, and finally it's like, oh, I like this now, because I got used to it, because I didn't change from when the class was done. I stayed with it, where others just went back to what they were doing before.
Yeah.
And it was like a $250 class. This is back in 95. So it was
Yeah.
not a cheap class. And so I'm shooting and then going through martial arts, doing that. And then I kind of merged the two, and that's why I've kind of modified it a little bit. And that's why I teach the way I do. I want the toes line straight up to your target. Now, a lot of them will teach, move that front foot back and turn it just a little bit. That opens you up, because, new people like would do that at Nebraska has women in outdoors and go down and teach there. And that's why they teach their stance, because if you're gripping the bow, you have that open stance, you don't smack your arm.
Yeah.
I teach the other way, but if you don't have the right grip, you're going to smack your arm.
Yeah.
Guaranteed you will hit it, because it puts it in the way. Especially, if you can, hold your arm off the side, make your fist straight up and down, and see where that meaty part of
it
that
bumps
arm,
out.
and then turn it, it moves away, and then move it off the side, and now it's out of the way. You don't hit it.
Yeah. Like when my riser was starting to break, I was lucky. I was shooting a shoot through, right? So I've at least got 2 pieces of material on it. So I was at our NFA indoor provincials, I think it was. I'm shooting, and all of a sudden I shoot one arrow up and high right, like a couple of inches. I'm like, there's no way. Like, that was a good shot. I don't know. Maybe I messed up. Whatever. Okay, let's next shot, nice and slow. Like, okay, that's got to be right in the center. Looked out through the binoculars, and like, how is this still like 2-3 inches high left or high right? Hell, shoot another one, same thing. What the heck is going on? We go down, we score the arrows. I come back, and me and another guy that was shooting with, he's like, "What's going on with your bow?" I'm like, "I have no idea. Something's not right." So I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's I was shooting a lizard tongue. Maybe the lizard tongue's starting to break. I'm like, that would go low. So maybe it's the sight. Maybe it's this. And I just happened to like look real close at the screw mount holes where the sight bolts into the riser. And I see a hairline fracture going through that bolt hole and working its way through the other side of the riser. So I'm like, oh, holy crap. Because that's the thicker side of that's the thick side of the riser. The thinner side is on the other side. So I take the sidebars off. I leave the front stabilizer on. I'm like hooking it across the indoor range. People are like, "What's going on? What's going on?" The organizer comes up and she's like, "What's going on? Do you have like just back up? Like, this thing's like my riser's failing. Like, if this blows up, I want to be the only one inside the shrapnel range." So I managed to get it into the press, take the strings off, decompress it, and whatnot. So everything was fine that way. And then just contact PSE, be like, "Hey, I got this bow, blah blah blah. This is what's happened." So like, okay, like mail it in. We'll take a look at it and we'll replace it, whatever, right? Because this bow, the old riser, I got it used from Christopher Perkins, who's one of Canada's 3D guys. So he shoots lots of arrows.
Yeah.
So this thing probably just gotten fatigued over thousands and thousands of arrows.
Yeah.
But PSE, like, shout out to PSE on this, but like, they're like, "Yep, ship it to us. We'll take a look at it." So I ship it in the box, all the strings and everything. And they're like, "Okay, yeah, we see you're not the original owner, but here's what we can do for you." So instead, like, what we'll do is I think it was like $350 US. We'll give you a new riser, we'll reassemble the bow, and then you pay an extra $100 to we'll ship it back to you. I'm like, done, deal. So like $400 US and like a week or two of time, and I've got brand new risers, bows reassembled. And then when I got the bow used, it was missing the string stopper, the vibration string stopper thing.
Yeah.
And they had put a new one on just for free. It didn't say anything about it, didn't ask, nothing. I opened the box back up, pulled the bow out, and it's got a brand new string stopper on it. So like shout out to PSE, I guess, like A+ on the customer service. For someone who doesn't have a warranty on the bow because they weren't the original owner, they just were like, "Oh yeah, no worries, we'll replace it and ship it back to you."
Yeah, I've always had good luck with PSE warranty stuff that need to like that, and fortunately I haven't had too many times to deal with them. But on that one I have my store, but that was really good to work with. And when I did have some, I sent it back, and another company that's really good is Scott Releases
Yeah, really?
and Carter Releases. I had a guy lost the trigger or something on his Scott release. I forget what it was he was missing. Called them up. They sent stuff to fix it. And I had on looks like your camera froze. But I had one time when
I forgot.
yeah,
Never back.
yeah, at one time I had my Carter handheld release and I dropped it. And guess what it hit on?
A rock.
The trigger. It hit on the
Oh,
concrete
okay.
floor.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
it hit on the
Okay.
trigger,
Yeah.
broke it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I called them up and they said, send it back and we'll fix it. And I says, don't put the knurled knob on because I didn't use it anyway. Send it back, cost me like $5 something for shipping. And they sent it back to me. I'll fix, I don't know if they fixed it or replaced it or whatever they did.
Yeah.
And that's good. It cost me $5 and some cents shipping. And that's all it cost me. And they took care of it. I says, hey, I dropped it. It broke.
Yeah. It just shit happens, right? You work with it, right? Like, and I try and do the same thing with my business. Like I've had some guys, they'll get a stabilizer and maybe the epoxy didn't set right or something, and then they'll put it on their bow and they'll shoot for a bit and the epoxy will fail off the stabilizer. So I've made like personal house calls after work to guys' houses with the epoxy in my truck and just to go fix up the stuff. Like, okay, I messed up. Let's make this right. And
Right.
and I'll like straight up drive an hour to their house to make sure that it's ready for next weekend.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that you missed in the manufacturing process, and like both the case I just talked about, it's like it was nothing to do with the manufacturer, but they still stood behind it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's the best part with a lot of like good companies is even when it's not their fault, they'll go above and beyond to do their best to make it maybe not make it right, so to speak, but make it better than it was, right? Like
Well, and too, like here, Scott fixed the release, so we promoted Scott releases, we promoted Carter releases, because we dealt with them. We're promoting them for free because they took care of it. It cost them what, a few dollars in parts to fix it or send them out. So that's cheap advertisement.
oh yeah, like coming from the manufacturing side of things, like you look at some of the parts and whatnot of these pieces, like I can go grab like this end cap. It's not that expensive, but a good reputation for just replacing it, fixing it, whatever, goes way beyond what a stabilizer end cap is worth.
Right. You got a few dollars into it. Well, but that's aluminum. I'm assuming it looked like aluminum.
This one was stainless.
Oh, that's stainless. Oh, that's a little bit more expensive, but still.
Yeah, I'm working on some new stuff. Like, so the plan right now is aluminum base cap to keep the weight down, stainless steel end cap on the far side to get some free weight without having to put any weights on it. And then I'm playing around with a tungsten end cap. This guy's pretty pricey, but just the cap alone for the end of the stabilizer would weigh about 10 ounces. So before you even put any weights on your bow, you've already got 10 ounces on the end. But the only problem is tungsten's a little bit pricey when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and probably a little bit harder to machine.
Oh, it's not that bad actually. Yeah, it's a little more harsh on your cutting tools, but in terms of everything else, it's pretty straightforward. Like I use the same program I use for the stainless cap, so the same cutting speeds and all that stuff that I do on the tungsten cap, and it works out just fine. But the material is the problem, right? Like just this cap alone, you're about, I think if I remember, about $120 US or Canadian, $120 Canadian in just raw material, right?
Yeah.
So that's with tungsten, it's mostly the material opposed to the actual machining, right? And that's what a lot of people don't know. With a lot of things, like some guys, like when I do job shop work, so someone comes with a part and they're like, "Hey, can you make this piece, whatever?" And I'll go, "Okay, like here's the price." Oh, well, that's a little bit high. I was hoping for this. I'm like, well, just the raw material alone is going to cost this before I even put any time into it. So a lot of people end up wanting stuff for less than the cost of materials, which is a problem I run into.
Yeah, not worth your time. I know there's a lot of things that you make, and you've got your cost of materials, you got your time in it, and now a lot of people, they don't want to pay for any kind of quality. They want something to throw away. I one of the things I do is I make pins on my lathe, and they're not cheap. It depends on what kit I buy. There's kits that are fairly inexpensive. There's kits that my cost of the kit's like $60 to $70 just for the parts. That's before you add any material for the wood or material you make for the buyer. That's just the mechanical part, and then your time. So something like that, you're going to turn into, if you're paying $70 just for the part without the material that you're going to make, you're looking at probably, $150, $170 pen.
Yeah. And is that a wood pen or like a metal pen?
Well, the parts are metal on the pen,
but the body would be what, wood?
Right, wood, or it can be bone. I've made some out of antler and all kinds of stuff. You could make them out of pretty much anything, and then there's some kits that the blank without the wood or whatever we're gonna use for that, is like $3. So by the time I add the material in them, that's your $15 to $20 pen. I about the same amount of time making them, but I can sell those a lot cheaper, and people can buy these, have a good quality pen. The finish on them is not near as nice, like the brass isn't near as nice, they'll wear out a little quicker, but still functions.
Like you get the same problem with metalwork stuff, right? Like this broken thing I showed earlier, right? It's probably $500 to $1,000 for just this vibration dampener for the machine tools, right? And that's before you even do anything with it. You can obviously amortize that cost over a couple of parts, unless you break it. But you run into the same problems with a lot of stuff. And just raw materials have gotten crazy expensive over the last couple of years. Like at the beginning of COVID, I think steel and aluminum went up like 30 or 40% over the course of a year. So like I sell my weights fairly cheap, but even then I'm like, oh, I've got to start increasing the costs of them to the retailers and to the end customers, simply because the material prices doubled. Right? Like I used to inside baseball, I guess, whatever. A 1 ounce stabilizer weight used to run me just in raw material like 30 cents or something like that. I think now it's up around about 50 cents for just the raw material. So the raw material costs of some things have doubled in the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's too bad we're having not such crazy inflation, because wages aren't keeping up with it. So it's making it tougher and tougher for people. And that's why when you're going out looking for archery, go to the archery shops. Like you said, you're down there and you're going through helping a lot of people. And that's nice about archery clubs, is you go down there, there's always gonna be somebody to help you out. Sometimes you just might have to ask. I know when I go down on my 3D rig is right, I sewed my NFA archery instructor patch on, figuring if anybody has any questions, they'll see the patch and they can ask. I'm not going to go up to somebody and say, hey, you're doing this wrong, I can make it better. But if they're struggling, I say, here, try this, see if this helps.
And again, like me being here in this archery dead zone, I'm one of like 3 target archers, right? The other one's my dad, and the other guy's just a friend, right? So there's like 3 of us. So if you see one of us walking down in the range with a big long stabilizer, we're one of the only guys. We get lots of people coming up going, hey, like, how do you do this? Because we have this fancy equipment and we look like we know what we're doing most of the time. So it's all smoke and mirrors, though. It's like, oh, we know what we're doing. Yeah, we totally know. But you help them out, you get them started, and you keep them moving, right?
Yeah, you just gotta help them out. That's the fun part. And I know when you have somebody come in that's new, that all of a sudden they take that first shot, and it's like, oh, it's exciting. The ones that I really like is the ones that it's like, they're in there with somebody else that's buying a bow, and it's, you want to try one? Oh no, just one shot. You want to try one? We'll just do one shot, and you get it all set up for it. And they shoot one shot. It's like, whoa, can I shoot again? Of course you can shoot it again. We just developed another archer.
And they start going, oh, they get all
Yeah.
excited and like he starts shaking. Oh, so okay, now calm down a little bit. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun when you get new archers and younger archers. They get all excited and they're like, oh, this is great, this is the best thing ever, and they have fun, right?
Yeah. That's always nice when you get the new ones, like you said, or the young kids, and get them started in archery. And after all, archery's been around for 64,000 years, so we don't want to let die off just because kids nowadays would rather do archery on the Wii.
Yeah.
Get a real bow in their hand, get them out in the real fields, and see what it's all like.
Yeah. When I was younger, I used to play a lot of video games and whatnot as well. So when the Olympics had like their esports Olympics as like the side thing of the actual Olympics, and they had archery on that, I'm like, no, these are not the right games for yes, they're sports-based games, but it's not the right games for like an esports Olympics. You got to go and actually get esports titles for it. So seeing people play Wii archery, I'm like, this hurts in two ways.
Right.
This hurts on the archery side, and this hurts on the video game side of things.
Yeah, it's crazy how it's like we have a Wii, but I haven't played it in years, and I just never was too enthused about it.
Yeah. I said, when I was younger, I used to play a lot of video games, and I was kind of competitive with them as well, just like I did with the archery stuff. But over time, I got busy with life. Archery took over, and then more life things, and so on and so forth. Just sort of phased out of it, I guess.
I remember when asteroids was the thing, and a friend of mine had asteroids on his little Apple. And I started playing it, and he went to go somewhere, and I kept playing and come back, and I was still playing, and I kind of rolled it over and started getting really flaky because I don't think it ever had even go that high a score. I think I played it for an hour and a half straight, the same game. You just kind of learn the pattern, and then all of a sudden it started doing really wacky stuff, and I think I broke it.
Yeah, a lot of older games don't handle being played for a very long time. They didn't anticipate people playing games for hours and hours on end.
Yeah, I had nothing else to do while I was waiting for him to get back, so I just kept playing, and a lot of times you end up they crashing and killing off the guys and starting over. But this one is just one game, just kept going.
Yeah. Asteroids was a fun game. I've played it on occasion here and there.
Yeah, now there's some other games I play once in a while, but I try not to play too many of them because they get kind of boring after a while. You get those like, okay, this is kind of over and over and over. It's like, okay, I'm done playing that one. It's not fun.
Yeah. See, the funny thing is that what is archery but standing in one spot and doing the same thing over and over and over again? Right?
That's true. But each shot is different.
This is true. Like I've had coworkers and whatnot go and like, oh yeah, I'll go and shoot for a couple hours, like 5-6 hours at a time, and go all day. Like, how do you stand in one spot for 6 hours just going and pull and release and pull and release for 6 hours? I'm like, I don't know, it's fun.
Yeah, I don't stand too well anymore for long periods of time. My knees kind of bother me when I stand in one spot, but I can do all kinds of walking. It's just that standing is hard on them.
Yeah, so you just do the 3D shooting, and then at least you're walking around, right?
Yeah, I prefer 3Ds over the target archery. I was just never really fond of shooting targets, and I shoot a lot of targets because it develops my skill that I can hit what I'm aiming at. That's what they're great for. But
Yeah.
me, I more would do the 3D for hunting.
Yeah, for me, I shoot without my glasses on, but I can't judge distance very well without them. Like the one time I went out and shot 3D with a group of guys at the club, they're like, "Oh, come shoot, you'll be fine. Like you're shooting this big of a grouping at 50 meters, you'll be fine." Like, okay, fine, we'll go out and shoot some 3D for fun. And start shooting a few, and then we get to a deer target or something in the bush, and it's shaded. There's trees in the way, and I'm like, okay, how far away is this? And I'm like, it's got to be like 20 or 30 yards. It's not that far. And then I draw back, I aim, bam, it hits a log right at the feet of the deer target. I'm like, what the heck? And they're like, how did you miss that? Like it's right there. I'm like, I don't know, man. He's like, what did you set your sight to? I'm like, I don't know, 25. He's like, it's like 40 yards. Like, what are you like? I don't know. I can aim. I can't judge distance worth anything. But now I've got a range finder and all that stuff, and I'm like, at least I can hit things now. I can't judge distance.
Yeah, I finally got a rangefinder a couple years ago, and I generally I don't need it for archery range. I actually use it during rifle season because I knew where they was coming out, but they was coming out just before shooting time. So putting a tree stand up there really didn't do much good. So I'm sitting up on a hill about 200, 250 yards away, figuring if they come out before sunlight, they're going to be out someplace in the field when it's time to shoot. And of course, I never come through that day, that week when that's on there. But I ranged it to see, okay, how far it is. And, I set my rifle up to be dead on at 200 yards. So I'm a little high at 100 and a little bit low. So I'm within 3 inches out to 300 yards. So a deer size animal, I'm good. That's some of the technique you can use. In the past, some of them was set up for their bow that way.
Yeah.
They go 20 yards and then set their pin so that they're at the top of it and start walking back until at the bottom of it. Then they take their next pin and set that where they're at the top of it again, and then walk back. So now they know if it's okay, it's close, far. So setting them up like that, so it's within the range. Maybe with my engineering mind, it's like I just couldn't handle that. I want my 20 to be 20, I want my 30 to be 30, and if it's 25, I'll gap it.
Yeah, exactly. Like the one tip that I did get for trying to judge distance from one of the guys was like, pick a distance. I'm like, okay, like let's say a meter. Imagine that 1 meter in front of you. Okay, it's about this far. Then take that, double it. So okay, now it's this far. Now take that imaginary distance you've looked at in your mind and double it again, and keep working your way out until you get to the target. And that was decent enough for me for just having shits and giggles fun with doing 3D.
Yeah.
But
I got, we're judging yardage, and one of the things that you can do is judge the yardage when you're out of the 3D shoot. If they lie, you use rangefinders only if you miss. So you're going to judge yardage, make your shot. If you miss, range it. Okay, where was I at? I was low. Okay, I hit the target. I don't range it. So that's something you can use if you do a rangefinder. If not, go out and say, okay, this is that distance, and shoot it. And then walk back and say, okay, this should be 30 yards, or in meters. You guys use meters up there. You're going back 15 meters. Okay, that's it. Okay, now I got 30 meters. Okay, this is the pin for 30 meters. And then you get used to figuring out that's what it looks like. Now, what throws it all off is you're sitting on top of a hill on a ladder stand, and the trail is down at the bottom of the hill. And when the deer comes walking out, it looks like this is a 40-yard shot by the size of the deer.
Yeah, but it's actually the
actually 20
of that track.
Yeah. And I'll tell people, all the carpenters know 3, 4, 5 triangle.
Yeah.
That's how you get a right angle. Yeah. And you probably do too, because of what you're doing. You know, you measure out 3 and then up 4 and the distance is 5. So when you're looking at, I look at the tree on the trail and I'll go up until I'm looking straight at, and I'll judge the yardage to that tree straight across. And it's like, okay, it said 20 yards is what I estimated that tree to be, 20 yards. It was on that trail. When that deer come walking out, that deer looked like it was good, at least 40 yards or better. You know, it was small, but I knew that trail was 20 yards away. I pulled back, I put that 20-yard pin on it, and I got it. Because I knew that this is what I had to do. And uphill's the same way.
Yeah. And so it's always fun to try and explain that to someone new to shooting, because they'll go, no, but the distance is this far. It's like, no, it's like gravity, whether you're aiming up or down, gravity's playing the same thing. The only thing that might change is a little bit of air drag. It's like, it's a straight line distance. Like you aim, you're changing that arc. So like gravity's already accounted for in that calculation when you sighted your pins in.
Yeah.
Right. So whether you're going down or up, you're not. It's not going to change that much, if at all. It's just that straight line distance versus the hypotenuse on that triangle.
Yeah, because the arrow is going to drop based on the horizontal distance. Got nothing to do with how far it travels.
Yeah.
You know, you can shoot up at 45-degree angle. It's going to drop based on the horizontal distance that it travels.
Yeah.
I've seen a Mythbusters had a thing one time. If you drop a bullet, the time it takes to hit the ground is the same time to hit the ground as if you shoot it. And they determined that it hit the ground at the same time it took the drop, it hit, because gravity worked on that bullet over that horizontal distance.
Yeah.
You know,
9.8 meters per second. That's it.
Yeah.
You're not, doesn't matter. You could shoot at zero, perfectly 90 degrees. Your arrow is still going to land right at your feet, not accounting for wind and stuff, right?
Right.
You aim at theoretically at infinite yards straight up. It's coming straight back down. It's not gonna, or if you aim perfectly down, it's not gonna end up behind you. Gravity's gonna pull it down.
Yep, that's one of the things that's sometimes hard to get across, and others are like, oh, okay, and they just get it right away. And you know, the new rangefinders have that angle compensation in it to compensate for that and tell you what you really need to shoot it for. And
it's all math. It's really just math.
Yeah, really just math. Yeah, and people say, I'm not good at math. Yeah, you are, you just don't know it. Because if you're driving your car and you got to pull out in front of a car, you have to estimate how fast that car is going, how long does it take to get you, how fast you can turn and how fast you can accelerate without getting hit. Now, some people fail that and get an accident, but you know, all that calculation is going in your head when you get ready to pull out. It's like, do I have time to pull out?
There was a YouTube video of some comedian or something, and he was making a joke. He's Asian. He's like, I was always told that I was always bad at math or something like that until my father started asking me the right math questions. If you have 3 bowls of rice and you have 6 people, how many bowls of rice each get? Like half. Okay, if you got 6 cars and 3 people, how many cars? He's like, I don't know. It's like, you just got to ask the question in the right way for people to understand it. Was more or less his point, right? Like, you could take very complex equations and math problems and break it down into smaller pieces and make it very simple for people to understand, right? Like on a CNC machine, you've got lots of numbers for everything. It's all math. All of machining is math. And some guys, they'll go, okay, well, if you tell the machine, okay, this is the top of the part, but then you've got a tool that's sticking out this far down, and they start trying to do all this like mental gymnastics about what numbers they should be putting where and doing this. I'm like, no, stop, slow down. Okay, you sold the machine that this is 0. You know how long this tool is sticking out from the machine. Now you just subtract this out so the machine knows where everything is. You don't have to do all this weird mental gymnastics. And people look at math like it's some weird voodoo subject. It's like, no, slow down and just think about it in different ways, and it becomes really easy.
Yeah, that's that applies to archery as well. You've got to figure out all this different stuff, and you're doing it. It's like, okay, I need to do this. The wind's blowing so hard.
Yeah.
Do I compensate into the wind or compensate against the wind?
Yeah.
What do I have for an arrow? Do I have a big fat arrow with it going to collect a lot of wind? It's slow, or do I have a little skinny arrow with almost no fletching that's going to not be affected by there? But then if it's blowing hard enough, it might move that light arrow where the heavy one might go.
Yeah.
So you have all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff to worry about. And you know what? The best way to do it is just go shoot them in the wind and see what they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was gonna say wait for the wind to stop and then shoot, but
Well,
but yeah, same thing. You just go and practice, you'll see. Like, I know with my target arrows, if it's a reasonably windy day, if I aim just to the left or right of the 10 ring, and then it'll end up give or take in the 10 ring. Or if it's even windier, go to the 9s, right? You just go and practice. You don't need to know the math for it. Just practically go and do it, right?
Yeah. Around here in Nebraska, there's not many days where there's no wind.
Yeah. The range I usually practice at, they've got a big thing of trees, and then like a berm around the range to catch any missing arrows. So you don't get a lot of wind in there. But the range I would shoot at for doing a lot of my tournaments, it's always windy all the time. Like, we swear to God that the Mother Nature's playing a joke on us. The buzzer goes to get your arrows, wind stops. Go back to the line, buzzer goes to start shooting again, the wind goes again. Like, seriously? Like, there was no wind for like 5 minutes, and now you've got your time to shoot your 6 arrows again, and it's a hurricane. Like, what the heck?
Well, everybody's in the same boat, so it makes it fair, but still makes it hard to shoot.
Yeah. I personally don't mind shooting in the wind. The one thing I don't like shooting in is the rain. I hate the rain.
Yeah.
It's just, I hate being wet. So it's like, I could be shooting and my scores could be bad, but I'm dry. And it's windy and my scores are bad. Or I could be shooting decent, my scores are okay, and I'm wet. I'd rather have shitty scores in the wind than decent scores and wet. Like, because like you said, everyone's shooting in the same conditions, so everyone's scores are going to be bad. So I'd rather be dry and have a bad score with everybody else.
Rather than being wet and have a bad score.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and then when you wear glasses too, then they get all wet, and it's like, okay, I got a spot right covering my pin. Shake your head and you're trying to get it to move, and
so I don't shoot with my glasses on. I've got a clarifier in my teeth there, but even that gets water in it on occasion. So I have a little camera puff bottle to blow it out, so I don't get condensation on it, right? So all the different things you have to deal with when you have no choice. You have to shoot.
Yeah.
Like,
if you're not in a tournament, you just don't go out. But I've gone out in the rain. It was rainy out, light mist, and my hunting buddy at the time, he wanted to go out, and I really didn't want to go out in the rain because I knew it was going to be fun to try and track him, and he was going to go anyway. I knew he was going to go sit in my tree stand and kill a deer out of my tree stand. I just knew that was going to be his life, so I went anyway. You know what? I killed a deer out of my tree stand that day.
I imagine the rain would wash away a lot of the markings for a deer when you go to track it back down, right?
Yeah, there wasn't much blood, but there was footprints.
I guess, yeah.
I tracked the fresh prints in the mud. I found the blood. I knew where it run anyway, so I knew whereabouts to go, and I just followed, and we found it by following the footprints, and there it was, and we dragged it out.
It's a neat, tracking is a neat skill. Like, I've never really, obviously I don't hunt, so I've never had to develop it or whatever, but like, I do deep woods camping and stuff. So we pack all our gear into a canoe and disappear into the bush for a couple of days, right? And you'll see, like, if you pay attention, you'll see little trails through the bush where obviously
Yeah,
some big animal keeps walking. But tracking one after it's been shot would probably, I'd imagine, would be a different skill set altogether.
yeah, yeah. You know, one of the tricks to it is you find the blood trail. You never walk on the blood trail.
Yeah.
Never step on the blood trail. For one, you can't find it back again because you've messed up the leaves. And a lot of times they go in a straight line. So you're going to start marking them, you know, where it was at. And you can look back and see your marking all the way back. And chances are they're going to go in the same direction. So if you don't find the blood, but then you got to start fanning out because they might all of a sudden turn. You know, they do turn. You know, they start getting weak or something. They might turn and bury themselves underneath the bush. Now I've had that before. They just made a right hand turn and here they were underneath the bush. You know, after you stomp around the field for a couple hours and come back, it's like, okay, they didn't go there at all. Like, oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there, right there.
There it is. And
Yeah.
you know, and then the tough tracks are you shoot one, you end up getting a gut shot on it, and because it was moving through and you didn't get a good shot. So you knew it wasn't a good shot. You get down, you find the first blood trail, you wait around till, you know, dark time. You start walking through, find a blood trail, and about 20, 30 yards, the deer gets up and runs off. You go look, sure enough, that's where his leg is, the blood's pooled there.
Yeah.
You don't go any further. And the one time it's going to get cold and snow. We are predicting like 2-3 inches of snow that night. So, but we couldn't go any further because it had just chased it further. So we come back the next night because, you know, I had to work next day. So come back next night, me and hunting partner and his kid. And so we're looking for a lump with snow on it. It went about 30 yards, laid back down, and then died.
Yeah.
And we found a lump of snow. I found the lump of snow with snow on it. And here was the deer. And the only thing that were froze was the bottom part of the legs. The rest was still warm.
Yeah. Yeah. It would still be warm. Yeah.
Yeah, still warm. Of course, snow on it helped insulate it. So we cleaned it. And if we'd have chased it, we'd have never got it. Because it'd run some more and run some more. And next thing you know, it would have, you know, not laid down there and died. You know, so that's the kind of key when you make a shot, especially, you know, any archery kill, you need to wait. You know, you just got to wait because you got to wait for them to bleed out. And even a good shot, you know, they're still going to run some distance.
Yeah. I was listening to your other podcast there, and yeah, you guys always talked about how you got to wait up in the tree stand for a while, and I never really, like, not being a hunter, I never really got, like, why would you do that? But now having you talk and explain that if you come down, they're going to run off, makes more sense now, right?
Yeah, you want to give them a chance to die, and you know they're going to bleed out. You know that a rifle kills them a little bit differently, you know, than a bow. A bow is just, they're just going to start bleeding out, and they're going to lay down and just bleed out and die. You know, where a gun is a lot more shock on them, and they can still run, you know, half mile with being shot with a gun, even a good shot. A friend of mine, he told me this, like, this deer was running by and they end up shooting it 3 times and it run, oh geez, probably a quarter mile, and there was no heart left. There's 3 heart shots, and there was no heart left, and it was still run a long distance. You know, so you just got to not chase them.
Yeah.
And it's nice thing with the bow is you know, it's quiet enough that, you know, there's Hunt Bunny was telling me this doe come walking in and he shot. It's like he knew he hit it, but it just stood there. Next thing I know, this buck comes following up behind him. So he shot that because he had tags for the doe and a buck. So he had the tags for it. So he shot the buck and it just stood there. Like, what's going on? And then he said they both started walking off out in the middle of the field and they started wobbling. Yeah. It was like he'd hit them both and they fell over. It must not have hit a bone or nothing. They just didn't even know they were hit.
Yeah. I guess must, like, adrenaline or just pure shock must have just made it so they didn't feel it, I guess.
Yeah. You know, that the doe was there, and I think the buck was in there trying to do the breeding, and I think it was just one of those things that must have hit him just right.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how things like that happen. Like like you cut a chicken's head off, so to speak, the body will still run around.
Oh yeah.
And I saw a video a while ago of a snake that had been decapitated, but the tail went and it was still wiggling around the tail of it. It tapped the head of the snake, and the snake latched onto its own tail, and the tail reacts as if it was bitten, right? Even though there's no head left. It's like, how is this possible? This doesn't make any sense to me. But it's like nature, as the saying goes, nature finds a way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird how some of that stuff goes, and it's interesting sometimes to look at it, but hey, we got a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure you have a lot of things go. We've been talking here a couple hours already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna end up packing up, going home. It's dark here now. My girlfriend's probably gonna be done working in probably another half hour or so. So she'll be pissed if I'm not home.
Yeah. Don't get her too upset.
Yeah. So like, she works milking cows, so she milks it. They milk them at 7 in the morning and then 7 in the afternoon. So she's home in the middle of the day, but I'm at work in the middle of the day. So when I then come here in the afternoon, she then gets finished around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then comes home and she's like, when I'm working, you can go do whatever you want. I don't care, but I'd like you to be home when I get home. Which is a reasonable request.
Yeah. Just to see a little bit. So yeah, it's been great talking with you, and I'll put some links to your website and your Facebook page in the description for the podcast here. And then when I upload it to YouTube channel, I'll put links in there as well, so that when I get a hold of you, they can do that. And anybody in the Archery Talk 101 group, and just DM you, if you're interested in it, and we'll get you some more sales.
Hopefully. If anyone wants to reach out, you can contact me through Facebook, through the website. If you manage to find my personal Facebook, you can do it through there too. And my phone number is also on the website, so you can call me anytime. If I'm not at my day job, I'll answer it. Otherwise, leave a message and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, you can't really take those kind of calls while you're at work.
Yeah, I got a Bluetooth set of earmuffs. So as long as it's not too loud and I'm not working near anybody, I'll take a call every so often. But
Well, it's been great talking to you. My name is Roy Canterbury, and host today on Archery Talk 101, and we'll see you on the next one.